All right, so 1, 2, 3, and we're back.
Sweet baby teeth. Let the wild turkey in.
God, that reminds me a lot when you tried to deep throat that fucking hog turd when we was, on the Skunk Camp Experiments 1. You see RPG carry a fucking hog turd through the woods. He comes back and he's proud of it. It's like, I found this.
Look what I found, guys.
It might be fossilized deer dick. That thing was like fucking huge, bro. Like, he's taking these deers out there fucking packing, dog.
No, you guys had like gator's teeth and all this cool stuff, and I literally was like, what is it?
It's a white piece of...
It's a piece of shit.
And I was like, oh yeah.
shit.
I was like, the pig was eating it. It was kind of crazy.
Nothing says you're not from Florida like that.
Yeah, right?
Oh, dude, when that pig, because there was nothing, and you guys freaked me out. You were in my head, which is we got to do that every time. So I'm just expecting the worst, like the largest snake, a bunch of pigs. Like, what the fuck you want, bro? Like, and it was nothing. So then right when you get cocky, all of a sudden there was one there, and when they like move real fast, and you just. And then I went over to see what it was eating after I calmed down, and I was like, what is this? So I was just pumped. I was like, I found something. And now I found shit. Literally found shit.
So that whole experience, that whole thing was all new to you for the most part, right?
Oh, yeah. Stomping through the marsh. I mean, outside of on the show, a tad of it. No, we went out from it.
Yeah, well, the hog hunt. Okay, That is my favorite part of the film. Well, it's one of my favorite parts. But the hog hunt, you get to see what it's like to be down here. It's like to be old school down here and do some of that shit. So how was that as coming from California? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And then you're now down here and we're catching hogs with our bare hands.
Oh, never mind California. I grew up in the country, or thought I did, right? Like, this is... How do I explain it? Like, I have seen so many different athletic events and participated in so many things, but I have never been a part of something so fucking primal and, like, thrilling. Like, my heart was hammering in my chest, like, and I wasn't even an active I was just there to observe, right? And to see this little guy, like, dude, Roger's son is like, I mean, he's the dude you go, that guy catches pigs, like, I see that.
Right.
But when the action hit,
You did say little guy right now, right?
No. His buddy who was with him was, and I don't even call him a little guy, but compared to him,
Hunter, Jolly Green Giant.
Giant, and then, but when the action hit, and the bushes are shaking, the dogs are, and the pigs squealing, the little guy, he hit those bushes like a linebacker in the Super Bowl, like going for and he was in the chaos, and I'm just watching him, and I'm thinking, oh my God, he's gonna die. They're all gonna die. And in that chaos, you have these women with beautiful butts, that's all I remember, coming in going, stop to the dogs, but gently. So you have hyper-violence, and these girls going, just stop, back off. And meanwhile, this little guy's in there, he's fucking resident. And then all of a sudden, the pig is like tied up, and Hunter's handing him pieces. And you guys were all just so cool with it. And I was like, this is literally the most manly, country, cool-ass fucking thing. Why don't we all have to do this once? Like, it was one of the coolest things, hands down, I've ever participated in. And I wasn't even, like I said, a direct participant. I don't know, man. Everyone should see it.
Yeah, it was, that stuff's wild, dude. Like, catching the hogs. Because like in Texas, other places, they'll spear them. You know what I mean? They have these long spears, and then the hog comes and stab the hog, basically, and try to wrestle it to the ground like that and stuff.
Oh, this was more hardcore.
Yeah, this is way worse than that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you got to put your hands on the hog, and that's, like, I've been trying to get my son to come down and do it.
He's a big boy. He could do it.
Oh, yeah, he could do it for sure. That's like, I just want him to experience it.
Yeah, hey, it's a great experience.
Yeah, it really is. It is
great
fun, dude.
experience. It was really fun.
No, I just cannot explain the rush. And then so we catch the first one, and we didn't even catch, it wasn't even like a normal 150 pounder. What was it, like 50 pounds maybe or something?
It was a small one.
So a small one. And then so we catch that, and you think the rush is over. And now they're talking, they're like, oh, because the dogs can't land this next one. And they're like, oh, by the way, there's this pig out there, 150, 200 pounds, maybe bigger, but it has no ears. And so the dogs, for people that don't know, you got the one dog that goes out, finds it, then you got this badass dog that latches to the ear, holds it down so that the person, the handler, can come up and put it down. But if there's no ear, it has to go for the jaw. And if it goes for the jaw, it's got the big teeth. And this thing is just bigger than the dogs. And dude, that was freaking me out. So now you're in the darkness and there's an all-black bullet running around the woods, angry because you're pissing it off. If that thing came out, anyway. Yeah,
I got bit one time, and so me and Hunter were working this ranch, and the dogs bayed the one in this thicket that was by this like creek, and this creek was like covered in lily pads, dark water. It's all marshy around there. And the catch dog comes in, but because it was so thick in there, he couldn't get a good hold on it, and we couldn't get to him.
Oh.
And that's the problem, because then you have to start crawling through that shit to get in there, because you got to help the dog.
Right.
He's a shelf life on him as soon as he latches on. But Hog gets out, runs across the creek. The dog right on his ass.
Yeah.
And then latches on the other side of the creek. Well, the dog won't let go, and the hog has now dipped his head down into the water where the hog can breathe, but the dog is under, and the dog won't turn loose. Yeah. We have to swim this creek, bro. Ooh. We go over there, and Hunter grabs the hog with by the tail and hands me the dog, and dude, they're all thrashing around and shit, and then we get it back over to the other side of the creek, and as we're pulling it up, it slips out of Hunter's hands, and the thing grabs me by the leg. And luckily I had my snake boots on, right? And so I felt it, but he didn't cut me. And that thing bit and shook, and then I had to grab it and flip it, and I'm on a muddy ass bank. It's like an incline, right?
So now you're mud wrestling with this big ass.
Woo! People are throwing dollar bills now. Get them, Stace.
No, babe, I drug that fucking hog through back to the truck. I didn't pick that one up. I drug him. I was like, fuck you. That was wild, dude. But I still to this day think Hunter let it go on purpose.
Really?
Just to like
test you?
Yeah.
That's kind of badass in a way, though. I kind of wish you would do that to me, but also don't.
It's like he got hazed that day.
Yeah, that's
He's
what.
like, you a real man?
Yeah, because I was about to shit a fucking brick going into that creek. Alligators ain't no joke down here, bro.
Yeah.
Well, not on RPG's land.
Nope. This is Eden.
No alligators here.
No alligators here.
Only spot.
Fresh water.
They skip.
So yeah, what y'all want to talk about, man? Let's talk about some cryptids, some paranormal. This is the OutKast Paranormal, whatever we're calling it, show.
Yeah. Well, this one's kind of just a quick one, but it just always fascinated me about Jacques Cousteau. And, exploring the world, going around, and there's the story that's presented to everyone of, this is a beautiful underwater video of the Indian Ocean. But what was he really up to? And from my deep dives, what I believe is like the Smithsonian goes around and looks for things and then decides to cover up or whatnot. They have people that they send out to do the real exploring. Because there are stories, which you may have heard of with Jacques Cousteau. He was off the Horn of Africa in Djibouti.
He was in Djibouti.
He's all up in Djibouti.
He got in that Djibouti. Because
When was the last time you got some of that Djibouti?
we got to do a Jacques Cousteau groupie movie, just like the people that followed him. But no, he went there because there were reports that the people were seeing this massive creature, this Nessie-like creature in the water down there, this devil, this great beast. So, of course, he goes to check it out. And if you get the topical story, he went, and when they actually went down, which they did not go down as deep, they only went down about 600 feet, it was
That's what she said.
It was like most oceans, it's kind of empty. There's not much going on down there. But if you then look at local papers and local reports, they will talk about how they went and he was scared out of there by something. Now, we know that the manta ray, the giant Atlantic manta ray, is called the devilfish, is massive. These things can get up to like 4,000 pounds. I mean, like, if you saw that, if you were up on the hill and you looked down, you saw this giant thing with horns gliding into the Red Sea right there. Imagine what you would think, right? You would think, oh, there's some giant beast in there, although this beast is completely harmless. But apparently Jacques Cousteau took a camel carcass, put it into a cage to test it, and dropped it to the very bottom. And now here's where my theories start to come in a little bit. If you look at where this is positioned, it's right at the entrance to the Red Sea. So it's at like a crucial entry point. Now, what's at the bottom? We have all these ancient stories of like Cerberus guarding the gates and all these mythical creatures. Basically, this wide arrangement of cryptids that seem to be standing at these points of interest, points that you should not go past, like Guardians of the Gate, like the devil, don't go there. And so what if there are these certain places in the world where there is something down there, whether it's a buried city, whether it's an alien spacecraft, whatever, but it is guarded by something. And when he put that down, he put it in the right spot, because we all know the ocean is ridiculously vast. But in the right spots, I think great monsters lurk, because he did the same thing in Lake Tahoe. Okay. And you get a regular story out of it, they'll say he was never there. He wrote a book, and since he wrote the book, that's the truth. And maybe it is. But in Lake Tahoe, apparently he was also run out of there. So I think this motherfucker was like one of the original aquatic cryptid hunters, like the king, and he went everywhere to these spots, special spots in Lake Tahoe and here, and he found the beasts, and he recorded it. For what purpose, why, I have no idea. I hope someone that's listening can like deep dive farther than I deep dive, no pun intended. But I find it fascinating that he was hunting all these giant cryptids, and he was finding them in these different places. If those... And if you guys know any more about that, I love that shit. Because the ocean is where it's at. Why are we not exploring the bottom of the ocean? Why do we care about Kanye West or any of this other crazy shit? Like, there's more ocean than anything. The answers are there. Or some cool shit's in there. And we don't care.
It's the artist formerly known as...
Well, I want to say
Dolphins
that
live in
Prince
the
Kanye.
we don't go down there because we can't physically get down there. The pressure is too great for like to go down as far as
it's kind of like
go.
space, right? But we go there all the time.
There's no pressure in space.
Oh, I understand, but like the challenges.
It's the atmosphere.
You have
we
to hold your
breathe.
breath just the same going
But
up and
okay,
down.
okay, but we have ingenuity, you know what I mean? And if we actually pooled resources enough, anything's possible. If James Cameron can do it, like...
Well, I'm saying that that's what they say.
Oh, well, yeah.
That's what they say. That's what the story is that, oh, the pressure's too great, we can't go further. Like, we still, like, Mariana's Trench, for example. We've only really seen, like, the entrance to it.
Yeah.
We don't know what's down in there, and that's supposedly where the Megalodon lives, right?
Yeah.
But it just so happens that there's, like, volcanic vents that are also around there, too. So not only are you dealing with the heat, you're dealing with, pressure on top of that, and that's why they say they can't go down there. But that seems like the perfect place for something to live.
Well, you think if like everything up here was going to shit, our air and all that stuff, why don't we move under the sea?
Yeah.
Like, get all the energy you want, you just set up outside the jet stream or something, maybe ride that shit and make you some energy off of that.
Thermal vents.
Thermal vents.
Yeah. Well, we go underground. All these ancient civilizations back in the day, we find all these dwellings. Either they are burnt cities, they laser blasted, whatever, or they just legitimately went underground because up here it gets fucking crazy with weather. Why wouldn't at some point they go, let's go in the ocean? Why are we just going in the dirt? Like, let's get to the bottom of the ocean. We've got geothermal power down there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It makes sense. It makes more sense to me that he went down there and he found something like that.
Well,
I just pictured Jar Jar Binks down there.
yeah.
He's a good judge.
I don't know.
They all get down there,
crab,
realize that
anglerfish
they're in
chasing
the
them.
water and can't breathe and die.
Yeah,
That's
right.
usually the problem.
Well, what you alluded to something last time, and you just kind of said it to me. Well, it struck in my head. So you were talking about everybody went underground, which made me think of the mud flood. Have you heard of this?
Yeah.
You have. So like the mud flood is like where the earth just stops, right? And then the poles reverse, and so when the earth just actually stops spinning, waves come over, like a 2-mile wave comes over and washes everything, creates this huge like mud flood that covers all the ground, right? And which leads me to what you kind of said last episode. You touched on, you thought dinosaurs may be fake. Okay, so how did I get there with the mud flood? If this mud flood thing happened, they say it happens like every 7,000 years or something like that, and we're past due. And so you got all this layer of soil over the top. How in the hell are they still finding dinosaurs?
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, wouldn't they be like hundreds of feet below, you know, if there was all this stuff that just came over the top, all this other like soil, or was like shifted around?
So you're saying it would be further underneath the sediment because all these other mud
Yes,
layers
all
came
these
and
other mud
piled
floods, because we're talking if this happens every 7,000 years, the dinosaurs, what, 65 million or billion?
Million.
Million.
And billions.
Either way, years ago. So you've had, you know,
I want to say that I just seen something that like one of the oldest things in the fossil record was actually a fossilized mushroom that was somewhere close to the billions of years of being fossilized.
Can you imagine the high off of that mushroom?
no, but
Yes, Bigfoot. Yes.
That was found in a cave, though.
okay, so does that like bring into question like how they're finding dinosaur bones? Like, do you believe dinosaurs even existed at this point?
Yes.
Really?
Oh yeah, 100%.
100%.
Giants. Going Giants.
Well, so the first dinosaur wasn't found, but like 100 and something years ago.
Yeah, but we didn't have the same level of archaeological equipment
You don't have to have the equipment to dig in the fucking ground.
to get that deep. Excavating equipment and stuff like that sure did.
Oh, so they're all being found at hundreds of feet below the surface, and none of them are
No.
found.
Depending on where they're at. Like if we're gonna talk about the Salt Lake or Salt Lake
Utah,
in
the Utah Raptors.
yeah,
And
like they're
that's like surface stuff.
yeah, they're relatively like within like 100 feet, maybe even say 50, if that.
50 feet down.
But you know, the thing is that at those times there was, let's just say, we're gonna go off of the globe theory, right? That there was Pangea, everything was all together.
Okay.
So certain levels were of the land continents that we know now. Some of those were actually underwater. Some of them were, you know, it was different, right? So like, let's just say that 25 million years ago, T-Rexes lived here, and that was at that part, right? Was actually above water and swamps and whatever, right?
Right.
20 million years, so 5 million years later, after that had happened, that has already gone down to a certain, the Earth itself rearranged.
Right.
So maybe there's actually more under the ocean that we don't even know about.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, yeah. And
Okay, but yeah, well, people been digging forever, right? And nobody was to find these dinosaur bones before then?
Well, maybe they did. Maybe they just
that's
didn't know
why I
what they
think
were.
it's a narrative that they want. And think about it. Every
Like
kid
George Washington
loves
didn't even
dinosaurs.
know they fucking existed.
Every kid loves dinosaurs. Why?
That wasn't that long ago, like in the grand scheme of things.
So RBG, what are you saying, that they want us to idolize reptilians?
No, they want us to love this timeline they've built that has the dates and perfect and all the things, and here's how it's going. And I just think
Because
that
they
it's
figured
all
it out.
shit.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. I don't think
I don't
they
know what
how
it is.
fucking old everything is.
But here's what I want exactly, and how many times it's repeated itself, and are we actually stuck here, really, like ants, and we just keep rebuilding? But here's what I want to go with the mud flood. Let's talk about, so how does one deliver that much mud? Because I think it's in the delivery of that would explain how the layers may not stay that tall. Because, okay, so how does it happen?
Multiple Uber drivers.
Well, no. Like, how do you, okay, if it's a 2-mile wall of mud.
No, okay, so the Earth's spinning, right? The Earth's spinning. What is the number they say? How fast?
Oh, it's like
Some
17,000 miles. I'll look it up. But
Okay,
it's a
so
lot.
the Earth is spinning so fast. And then the poles, the polarity switches.
Okay.
And now east and west are your poles. And north and south are not your poles anymore. East and west are. Anyways, the planet fucking stops, right?
But wouldn't it all just stop then? Why are things...
That's another thing. Like, okay, so if your gravity's a big deal, why wouldn't it just be cool with it? But I guess it's like in a car. If you slam on the brakes, your drink would fly forward.
So the Earth
right?
is like a
So
big star.
yeah,
so surface.
it stops.
So it's all surface.
Surface stops. Water comes over, washes all over the country, and now because the Earth is stopped,
Yeah.
right? The sun is in one fucking spot where it shouldn't be, and shit freezes. Like everything that didn't get destroyed by these tidal waves freezes. That's why they found mammoths they're still eating, right? But they were just like flash frozen.
So it's a flash, yeah.
Yeah, right. So everything on the planet fucking freezes. And then, and this is all within like 8 hours,
Yeah.
the poles shift back and the fucker starts spinning again. This is a theory a lot of people are jumping on. And so if you're washing all that water over it, you're moving all that fucking, so maybe you're scraping it off. But at some point as it's picking up, as the shit's coming in, it's pretty much just mud from there out, and so it just lands right over everything, covering everything.
So it's basically like a tidal wave that as it builds momentum,
2 miles
it collects
tall.
land, and it's moving land. So at the front end of it should be just a washed out basin once the water recedes. But over here, so basically you should see that the mud's getting higher the farther it
Right.
goes.
So the problem of, we knew these Triceratops lived over here. How the fuck do you know that? Because you found their bones over there? Like, their bones could have been drugged.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but you got to think about how these bones are found. These skeletons are intact. Like, it fell over and died, not
Right.
washed up.
For
You
a
know what I'm
bunch of
saying?
Right.
washed
Right. So
up
doesn't
everything.
any of that, like, if this other theory happened, does any of that kind of, like, not make sense to you?
Well, yeah,
That they're
because
finding them intact.
No, that still makes
'Cause if
sense to
it-
me.
And who's finding them? Only archaeologists or, like, normal people?
Smithsonian, $1 billion budget.
Well-
Explain to me why.
Well, interesting thing that to kind of jump on all of this, right? The mounds here in America
Mm-hmm.
that nobody ever wants to talk about.
Yeah.
So I've been reading this book in relation to another case, and they start kind of building up this picture, right? About how, and this book was written in, I want to say the 80s, and was going off of like basically stuff from like the late 1800s to the early 1900s, that there was like a big coup within the like archaeologist community. They were going into these mounds and they were looking at all these structures that were built, etc., and they were finding these strange things inside of these mounds, bones being one of them, forged crucifix, strange like writings on tablets, and like stuff that just could not have been made by the Native Americans at the time, because they didn't have forging materials and things like
Didn't
that.
fit the narrative. Didn't fit the narrative.
So, but they still blamed it on the Native Americans anyway, and said that they were somehow still receiving trade, like through like like merchants and stuff like
Right.
that. Which,
Bible salesman.
yeah, so like they kind of did this thing that were like, so let's just say that you were an archaeologist back then, and you were,
Was I a good archaeologist?
fairly,
Fairly good. Handsome.
and so you found something like this, right?
Yeah.
And then you wrote your whole dissertation on it. You wrote like your paper, and you had the findings. You figured it out that this piece of evidence doesn't make sense, and you would bring it back to the archaeology community, whatever, and they would shun you.
Nerds.
They would shun you and basically not allow you to continue archaeology until you retracted it in some sort of way.
Well,
And this is a pattern over history that, like, there has been suppression from that community.
Sure.
Why? The only reason I believe
Control
in
the
dinosaurs
narrative.
is because I'm a big fan. All right, I love Jurassic Park. It is just what it is. What it is.
You
I
want it to
have
be
hope.
real.
I want it to be real. I heard recently that there was a video that was actually taken here in Florida of a velociraptor running through a lady's yard.
Did you see that? Anybody else see that?
I've seen it.
Security footage?
It is.
Yeah, I don't think it's a velociraptor.
I don't think it is
But
either, but I
I
was
think
so
it's an emu.
hopeful, and my daughter, she was like, "Oh, Daddy, they're real."
Aw.
You know how bad that would fucking suck, though?
Ooh, we're all
Right.
dead. all day.
I think the
But-
one thing we don't want running around is a couple of velociraptors.
Bigfoot is afraid, and he ain't afraid of nobody.
Like I'll eat myself, some of them flying pterodactyls.
but that's
I'm
not
sure
the-
not eating any velociraptors. Those guys.
But the
a little
pterodactyls is a
something.
good point because there's been a lot of pterodactyl sightings allegedly out in like the desert areas, New Mexico, Arizona, places like that. There's also been velociraptor sightings. There's people who are genuinely putting real reports to this day about real.
Oh well,
velociraptors.
shit. When we was I was
Because
on
you don't want
some-
to put out a real report about a fake velociraptor. They have to be real velociraptors as well. So all these cases are actual real cases with real velociraptors.
Well, I
Thank
was
you.
on a reservation, and I think it may have been up there with Barry. But one of them had told me about their grandparents had actually seen like Brontosaurus type dinosaurs on the fucking like Great Plains there. They had talked about them, so maybe dinosaurs lived. It wasn't that long ago. Maybe
That
the
would be
Earth's
my
only
guess.
5,000 years old, like the
I think
Bible
the time,
says.
the millions, the billions, I think that's all bullshit. Because that radioactive dating, that's all sketchy bullshit anyway.
Well, my problem with it is I can't do it at home.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I had to trust in this guy, in this scientist. And the last fucking time we trusted some scientists, we found these tracks. We got a hair sample above one of the tracks, sent it to 2 different labs.
Gone.
Both of them. One of them told me it was a cat. One of them told me it was a bear. It was cinnamon color. We don't have cinnamon fucking black bear. And we don't have no cat that's that color. So it's like, why are y'all not telling me the same fucking thing? Either one of y'all didn't do the test, and you're just telling me you did, but the other guy did. I don't know. They both blame the other one for being a drunk.
Or they found, or they did test it and realized that it was something that they couldn't disclose.
Now, the Smithsonian has $1 billion budget. NASA has the largest movie studio in the world. Like, these are just simple facts that if you look at them, you should just go, huh. And if that's the case, then so what are they doing with that money? Where does that money go?
Why do you have 400 graphic artists working for you?
Like, why? Like, so that's why, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, for sure. With the Smithsonian, like, they've been known covering up shit. Just besides the giant skeletons that were found, there's also the pyramids of the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Which that's a whole fucking deep dive. Like some archaeologist discovered in this cave, I guess he was following some guy's journal or some shit, and he discovered this cave that had like hieroglyphs on it, and then when he got into it, it opened up into a big tunnel system, and there was like a 40-foot tall Buddha right there, and then turns out there were like pyramids
Oh, wow.
under the fucking ground, right? And so he writes about it in like 1909 or something. Forgive me if I'm wrong on the dates, but Smithsonian comes out, he goes out, he calls all those people, like, yo, I just fucking found the shit, bro.
Yep.
And they come out there and they like immediately just shoot it all down. They're like, nope, you ain't find shit. Everything that he turned into him just disappears. So fast forward to like the 90s, this like little researcher, he decides he's gonna go out there and find this spot this guy was talking about, the pyramids in the Grand Canyon, and he fucking finds them, right? He comes out and tells somebody. Next thing you know, he's like, I can't remember if he was arrested or he went missing, but they like blocked off. After that, they blocked off the cave entrances, saying that it was bats in there that were protected and you couldn't go in them caves because they didn't want you disturbing the bats.
And there was a plane that crashed, and actually hit the side and pulled down the curtain that they have over one of the grand... Listen, it isn't just pyramids and Buddhas. It's all the ancient races met there in the Grand Canyon. That place looked a lot different. And here's the crazy shit. So when I was producing for a show about exploring the world and looking for cool shit, I met a dude who will hike us in. And he's like,
What?
do you want to go see the obelisks? Do you want to go see these things that are so far in that they're not going to cover up because no one's ever going to go there? Why is there a random shack across from the thing the plane crashed on the Native American reservation where they have a guard outposted there at all times, just watching across from the Grand Canyon randomly. These are things that are real. And it's like, so what's really going on there? And then if you deep dive, not to go crazy on this, but if you were to get into the Gulf Stream in the Atlantic, you can come from Europe, Africa, and anything, and it takes time, but you can, if you get out into it, you can float all the way. And back in the day, things have changed slightly. It would take you in and drop you off perfectly right into the Grand Canyon, where all these different races would pilgrimage to, share knowledge, kind of have a mecca, come back out, hit the Amazon, which was just giant gardens, collect food, and go back across the sea. There is a whole other lifetime of people working kind of in harmony, and then something happens. Maybe it's what, were you saying it, where that experiment where once everything hits like utopia?
Oh, yeah, experiment. I don't know, what was it? What's it called?
Oh, Universe 25.
Universe 25.
Maybe when you hit utopia, something switches in us and we go violent and we destroy it all. You know? But anyway, explain that thing though. Like,
What, Universe 25?
Yeah.
Basically, there was a psychology study that was done. I'm not going to name the guy because of...
smoke dope. I don't remember.
Right, I'd give you his name, but I flat out forgot.
Well,
but I got high.
All right, anyway.
The only one that doesn't smoke. Okay.
Long story short, what he did is that for like a really long period of like years, he studied these mice. And basically what he created was like a ecological experiment. And he created like, an area for all these rats to kind of be together, but there was a separate part of this area where they could kind of live without having to work. Like they don't have to hunt for food, like food is provided for them, shelter is provided for them, and it gave them a good opportunity to breed and, keep reproducing. But what they found was after periods of times and several generations of mice, they started to, there was two things. The females started becoming overly aggressive and start like having more male traits. And then the male mice started being like more submissive and having like almost like depression type symptoms where they didn't feel like they could be like, were being what they were supposed to be doing, right?
Right.
And it was because they got into this place that they were so, lack of a better term, lazy. They didn't know, they were no longer fulfilling their biological drive, right? Mm-hmm. So over time, more generations, the population, like the reproduction rates started going down because these male mice could no longer properly get with the female mice because they couldn't interact properly.
Wow. I just see a bunch of female mice scissoring.
Erectile dysfunction.
Well,
Erectile dysfunction from the mice.
Well, that's kind of one of the things that ended up happening.
Literally mice scissoring.
Well, I mean, I don't know about that in particular.
Would you
but
keep
I do. The study did show
I got a
that
pair of scissoring mice.
homosexuality started to increase. And also cannibalism started to increase.
Wait, what? There's a jump there.
Yes. But by
You start eating ass and then you take a real bite.
Right.
So
If you'll eat a dick, you'll eat a whole body.
Another interesting part too is that by the end of the experiment, from the measurements of the original mouse, like the first breeds that they were using,
Adam and Eve.
by the end, they were smaller.
Interesting.
As well. So like over time we became like we use hey, listen, we're kind of being taken care of. Life's easy. And suddenly things start to change and just based off of our environment becoming too easy for us.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it proved is that like at the end of the day, I think it even stands in our culture and our society now that we need to be challenged in some sort of way. And we need to, kind of like you guys started this off talking about how it was such a thrill to be out there doing man stuff, hog hunting, right?
Toxic man.